other side here. Light not going to get his hands on that. We'll see what the final ban is for Waybo. A lot of powerful picks still available. The Gwen and the Nefiri, notably, both up. And so Waybo actually throwing out the gauntlet to Top Esports, offering them the trade. And it looks like that's going to happen. And now we'll see if Waybo do prioritize this Nefiri pick, because it's Top to end up picking the Gwen, meaning that that dog still up on the table.
It is, and do you want to give over both the Gwen and the Nefiri? That's a little bit of a risky proposition to go for, and giving 369 this Gwen anyway is already a massive risk. The reason that you're able to just blind it at the moment is because it is just so much stronger than almost anything else that we've been seeing in the top lane. Waybo, they did decide that the trade was worthwhile. They are going to pick themselves up the Nefiri, and now things are a little bit more open. There's still plenty of strong pickups available, but nothing so much where it's like, right, you have to take this at this point, otherwise things are just going to collapse in. Are we going to see top laners again? We are indeed, and it's going to be the Gnar into Gwen matchup. Now, the Gnar can space this matchup out relatively effectively, but the Gwen just starts dealing so much damage around that 2-item spike that you almost can't step to it by any champion.
I was curious if we get the Kennen counter. That was something that worked out well for... actually, 4-3-6-9 against Flandre in game number 3 of the series that happened between TS and AL a couple of days ago. Looks like instead it will be the Gnar here for Breathe, another champion that he is very comfortable on throughout his entirety of his career. Responsibility for TS is going to be playing the Vi, so the roles swapped a little bit in terms of what the playstyles for these junglers were expected to be entering this series. And now this is Tian's opportunity to say, hey, I can play some of these carries too. I'm not just a Vi or Xin Zhaobot.
Interesting. Top, they're going to go towards the Ahri right here. Now, Creme's very effective on the Ahri, but this is an incredibly single-target kind of composition right now. All of these champions much more interested in focusing down one champion, pick them off, then turn it into a full team fight. Waybo, they're a little bit more split. The Rise as well can give you a little bit more in terms of the overall damage. At the same time, I feel like Waybo are also pretty single target. This is going to be a little bit more on picks and map positioning right now than the straight up 5v5 team fights. If these teams get to play out the matchups as they want to, obviously we might see them just forced into these straight up 5v5s anyway.
Yeah, that could change a little bit depending on which bot lanes are selected, but the pools have already been pinched a bit, and they will continue to be potentially in that support position as Crisp is getting targeted early on with the Braum as we enter our second phase of this first game draft. JackeyLove and Crisp have been hit or miss, I should say, throughout the start of the LPL season, but when they are hitting, when they are firing on all cylinders, this is one of the best bot lanes that we have in the league.
Absolutely, and they've found some great success on things like the MF Alistair has been a really good combo for them. You know, something where they can really get quite aggressive. Same thing with the Ezreal Karma. That's been really nice for them too. Obviously, the Ezreal is going to be banned away by Top Esports right now. And Light and Hang, they've also been looking pretty good. I don't think they've been the main focus from Waybo. I've been far more looking towards their mid-jungle duo as the real place that they're trying to play through. But Light and Hang, they've not been slouches. They've not been dragging the rest of the team down. But we are beginning to see quite a lot of ADCs onto the ban table. A lot of the top priority ones especially are now gone. So you're kind of looking more towards this second tier of champions. And I mean, in terms of those second tier of ADCs, the most interesting one has definitely been the Kai'Sa. It's a bit risky to go, but in a very single target focused composition like TES have, it can make sense.
And we know that both of these bot laners can definitely play that if they are given the angle by their coaching staff. We'll see what Light decides to select here on that R4. Another pick could be something like the Jhin, offers more utility, which might not be the best in terms of Top Esports specific composition right now, as they already have a lot of that single target damage. So maybe it will be the Kai'Sa. JackeyLove is hovering that right now. Could be paired up alongside something like the Nautilus, which is actually not on the ban table throughout the portion of this draft.
Yeah, and it's been one of the strongest supports, but the support pool is a little bit more open at the moment. I think any kind of engaged support could work quite well right here. Everybody else is going to be diving in. You don't want to be leaving your support behind. Something else that can go forwards. The Poppy, we saw it in that previous series that we were watching, just how strong it can be, and you did need something a little bit tankier still to be able to face check into brushes, be able to step up and buy a little bit of space early on, and it will be the Jhin, the other ADC that you highlighted on that second tier of ADCs we're seeing. It's much more able to just sit back and try to play the map from further away. I do worry for it a little bit when there's so much dive potential, especially with something like a Vi. The Jhin can be pretty vulnerable to that.
Yeah, and then you just have the Kai'Sa who can immediately follow up on it. You have Creme who can throw a charm out onto the Jhin as well. I imagine he's taking cleanse here in this game as we have
Yes.
loaded up on our compositions for game number 1. I think overall, nothing super 5v5 teamfight oriented for top esports specifically. I think it's going to be about those picks that you talked about. Kanavi and Creme roaming around the map together in the mid jungle 2v2 should have a big impact over how the first portion of this game goes.
Absolutely. Watching where you can actually find gank potentials is going to be so important right here. The Neferi is a little bit happier to sit and allow you to just do what you need to do on your lanes and then get involved a little bit later on. Try to deal that damage once you get that first item spike. Whereas Kanavi, I think you've got a lot more priority on you right now. The Vi is so good on the early ganks, especially once you first hit that level 6, almost guaranteeing at least a flash out of your opponents. So I'm going to be watching Kanavi. What can he do? Because when he falls behind, this top esports team just doesn't look the same.
Yeah, and we saw that happen against Anyone's Legends in Top's first game of the regular season of split number 2. Was able to do much better in the last 2 games, and that is what led Top Esports to being 1-0 on the season so far. Meanwhile, Waybo playing their first games here in Group Ascend. They're going to have to play 2 best-of-3s against every one of the top 10 teams in the LPL at the moment before playoffs begin. And things get very cutthroat here in this group here, Bloxer. The top 4 are the only teams that are guaranteed spots in the knockout after this double round robin concludes. And so getting a win over a team like Top Esports would be a huge boon for Waybo.
It really would be. It would show everybody that, hey, the matchup that they were able to take off of BLG wasn't a fluke. They are here to play, and they are going to be one of our top teams. They really need to show up in this one. Top Esports, they just want to continue the run.
Well, so let's get into it. We got game number 1 between Top Esports and Waybo coming right up.
Alrighty, and where are we going to see these junglers start? Because the Neferi, like we were saying, prefers to just sit back a little bit, farm up, see if you can get into a good spot. Okay.
Not a great start for Breathe.
Jumping in. I thought 369 was going to chase that one a little bit further. Instead, just gives Breathe a little bit of a tickle and then walks off. All right, fair enough, fair enough.
That's the top lane of respect right there. You know, you don't have any crowd control, so you decide. That's a little warning shot before the game really begins. Maybe help up those damage numbers on the post-game screenshot.
Exactly. You get it.
Taking a look at the runes around, we see Light going for a more defensive option with the Fleet Footwork. Meanwhile, JackeyLove with that Lethal Tempo, meaning a more on-hit build, is likely here for the Kai'Sa. As you see right now, the power of this Gwen, even in this range versus melee matchup, level 1 is one of the strongest points actually for this champion because you can just do so much extra magic damage with those auto attacks on the E.
Absolutely, and just being able to constantly press forwards. Hang on, 369 going in. Again, another good chunk out of Breathe, although...
Oh, he's dashing forward.
Hang on.
Wait, 369 is just dead.
Gone.
Oh, no, you can't fight in the wave like that, man. Breathe, spacing nicely, picking up first blood for Weibo Gaming.
Oh, you could see the moment where 369 realized that he'd messed up, knew that he had to go in and get the kill, otherwise on the return was just going to get taken down by Breathe, but Breathe plays that one exceptionally well. Like you said, the spacing was just perfect, and 369 fighting in just a way too aggressive position, gets punished for that one, and the Gwen, that B1 Gwen, it's such a strong pickup, you really don't want to be falling behind on it already.
And look what that also led to. Tian was able to walk straight from Raptors into the enemy blue buff and steal away 2 of Kanavi's camps. Now, Kanavi will be able to at least get something back potentially, but he was spotted on a ward walking in, and now the rest of Weibo could be on the hunt. Hung coming in first, and the rest of the bot lane will show up, so it does mean that Kanavi can secure the blue buff, but still net positive overall in terms of camps for Tian at the moment once he's able to finish off all of his clears. Let's take another look at this 1v1.
And you can understand why 369 is going forwards, wants to get a good chunk out of Breathe, but here, it's this point where he keeps stepping back forwards, he knows he's messed up at this point, and actually Breathe didn't even need to flash in the end. The minions were going to pick up that kill onto 369 anyway, so that's at least something back for 369, but that's both summoners just blown immediately, and he doesn't even get a kill for it.
Definitely questionable, because the Gwen is certainly a pick that you can abuse the damage of early on, but not when you're playing like completely unreasonably aggressive in that, like he did against Breathe right there, who, you know, I understand being Minion-R, like not having the hyper as well, like that could be an opportunity for you to try to exploit that matchup, but obviously did not work out, especially when fighting into the wave like 369 did.
Exactly, just jumping way too aggressive right there. And we'll see what that ends up meaning for the rest of this matchup, because you've now opened up the cull right here for Breathe. Is in a good spot. Creme getting collapsed on.
Yeah, Xiaohu snuck his way into the bottom side bush. And Tian's going to be able to pick up a kill as well. So 2-0 for Weibo Gaming early on. Again, we thought that this could be a top esports favored matchup because, of course, they're the defending champions. But Weibo wanting to make sure that they come out with a roar to start off their group stage.
Absolutely. Kanavi in the area around this bottom side. It'd be very risky to try for any kind of dive at the moment, and in fact going to get spotted out onto this Gromp. Not potentially pushed back. I mean, you don't have any more support in the area. Tian is up on his top side of the jungle, but it just means that, again, Kanavi being tracked around this jungle right now, not being able to be proactive, not in the same way that Tian has been able to be so far. And that's exactly what you want to do as Weibo. Shut down the early game for top esports, because look at their composition. This is the sort of composition that spikes incredibly hard at that 1 to 2 item point. That's when they're really going to be wanting to be fighting. And now, if they're behind the curve, going to make it that much harder for top esports to get their feet under them with this very aggressive composition.
Yeah, I mean, this is, again, we talked about the win cons here for top. It was when Kanavi and Creme hit level 6, they're able to roam around the side lanes together. That can't happen if Kanavi's super far behind, and if Tian on the Nefiri is having a pretty good start to this game, which he definitely is at this point. The matchup between these junglers is what we were highlighting going into this game here, Bloxer, and right now Weibo's jungler having the better go of things.
Very much so. On this champion, we weren't even sure he was going to be able to play. Going into today, he'd only been playing the Vi and the Xin Zhao. All of a sudden, pulls out this Nefiri, the top dog that we've been seeing at the moment. And so far, having some great success on this one. Of course, it's still very early on into the game. We're only just going to be getting that first Drake spawning. This first set of grubs as well are in the area. You can see a few pings right now over on Waybo towards this Drake. Potentially, that's what they want to play towards. That being said, I feel like the grubs are going to be a little bit more impactful for both of these teams, and you can see, indeed, bot lanes being roamed around in order to get involved.
Yeah, not a ton of inherent siege potential for either team comps, so getting that extra damage to the towers with those grubs would be rather important for both sides. Recently, Creme hitting level 6, Kanavi and Tian both do not have their ultimates, but that is going to be okay for now, as it is the Vi starting up these grubs for top.
And it looks like Tian, despite the fact that he has his bot lane in the area, are a lot more interested in just picking up these waves, a couple more camps. It was well played right here of top esports to be able to push through that top wave, make sure that there wasn't going to be any real response onto this one. And I think that picking yourself up all of these grubs is going to be so impactful right here for top esports. You've got a Gwen, and Gwen just loves being able to shred through these towers. So much easier once you can get on top of them.
So we'll be just that first set of grubs picked up. Now the trade normally on the other side is a dragon for the team that does not get the grubs, but now Weibo's still on this top side.
There they go.
They could potentially get punished here as Tian gets hit by the ball breaker. But look, all of a sudden Kanavi is suddenly sent right back into the enemy team, but top esports collapse onto Xiaohu, and that's the first kill of the fight. A 3v3 has opened up. Light still pretty untouched. Hung looking for another headbutt pulse combo potentially as JackeyLove has that lethal tempo fully stacked up. Creme dashes forward, lands into the charm.
Nice.
Chris dashes in here with the vault breaker as well. That should be JackeyLove once again picking up another kill. And so top esports, they go 2 for 1 on that trade, as well as getting the grub camps.
Yeah, really well played right there, out of top. And it's just the aggression that they knew that they needed to go for. I think Hang did a really good job in that team fight of attempting to split things up. But unfortunately for him, you just get caught stepping a little bit too far forwards right there. We'll have a look back at this one. So this is aggression out of top esports, and then Hang manages to flash in, get the push back into the stun. It's really well played to try and get the initial kill onto Kanavi, but this Vi able to survive for long enough to pull the fight a little bit further forwards. And then it's this re-engage that's really nice. Creme managing to find that charm that you needed. Immediate follow-up right there from Crisp as well to make sure that it works. It was the flash into the E to be able to pick up that kill. Top esports doing well for themselves, managed to get themselves at least back into this game after what was a little bit shaky in the very early stages.
And a little bit of potentially like miscommunication almost, because Xiaohu kind of just walked straight into all of top esports and died, and that came right as Hung headbutted Kanavi the opposite direction,
exactly.
So pushing the fight away from Xiaohu and forcing top esports to instead collapse onto the rise and getting a kill onto him. That was one of the big reasons why it was more of an even trade for top esports instead of it being Weibo really taking control after a nice engage from Hung.
And we're going to have that first item now completed. Youngtail's arrows for JackeyLove, so he's going to be in a pretty strong spot. And again, like we were saying, Top Esports, they really don't want to fall behind on this very aggressive, dive-orientated composition. It's going to be all about the picks, who you can find with either a Charm or a Vi ulti from Kanavi, and then turning it into a 4v5. I think in the straight-up 5v5s, if they're well executed, a few good ultimates out of Waybo, they're definitely going to be very hard to play out for Top Esports, so they need to change the terms of the fights before they even start.
Be interesting to watch as the gold has gone right back to even. Top Esports with a slight advantage as well by having those 3 grubs. Although Waybo has claimed the feat of warfare as they were able to get to 3 kills first. And we look at where the gold is focused for each of these teams. Right now the bot side for top doing very well. JackeyLove and Crisp having a good go of things early on. Whereas Breathe and Tian are the ones that are ahead right now for Waybo. But that might not matter as 369 pops the ghost and the needlework and chunks Breathe down at 300 HP.
Getting very low right here, but does have that Mega Gnar stacking up, and Tian is booking his way up towards the top side right now. 369 needs to be careful to not over-aggress here, or he might find himself dying again in this matchup, which would be devastating for the chances of Top Esports. And indeed, they do end up backing up from this one, but because Tian's been pulled up towards the top side of the map, Top Esports, they're going to be able to pick themselves up this Drake, the first Drake of the game. Being able to grab yourself the first 3 grubs and the first Drake, that's huge right here.
Yeah, wisely backing away was 369. He knew with all of his teammates on the bottom side that he was the only play that Waybo could make, and with Tian up on the top side, ends up retreating, even though he did not necessarily know that the Neferi was in the area. It allows for top to get the dragon and also not die on the top side, as they've had a decent go of things ever since that first couple of kills went awry for them.
Yeah, they've been able to at least stem the bleeding, stop this from turning into a complete disaster early on. Getting themselves into a pretty nice spot right here. The next set of grubs are going to be spawning, though, just about now, and Tian is already on top of them. And actually, Kanavi not moving straight towards them. Going to be pausing to take this wolf camp. Not sure that's entirely worthwhile, but there are quite a few members of Waybo in the area. If you do want to step up and try take one of these away and stop it from just being a 3-for-3 grub trade, it would be very tricky to do so. And yeah, it looks like they're just going to back off from this one. Kanavi happy to just take a little bit more of the camp, so it will be 3 apiece in terms of these grubs.
Yeah, not the worst thing in the world if you're a Top Esports fan, as you already got the 3. Just want to make sure you don't give away all of them. Crisp's trying to spot out Breathe. He's just able to hop over the wall. And so, again, first matchup in 2025 between these 2 teams. The last time that we saw Top Esports play against Waybo was back in the summer LPL playoffs, and that actually went, I think, Waybo's way. So, it's a bit of a different time, though, since then. Top Esports have gotten Kanavi. They've also gotten Crisp, who was on Waybo at the time back in 2024. So, different landscape, certainly, since the last time these 2 teams have faced off.
Very much. It's been interesting that they've just avoided each other throughout the first split. Now we get to see a real true matchup between them. And I think at a point which these teams are going to be warmed up after the placements, they're going to be feeling good about everything. So going to be a very representative battle between these 2 in this best of 3 right here. So you see, small looks towards plays from both of these teams, but nobody's particularly wanting to pull the trigger on any more skirmishes right now. There's nothing to really be fighting around particularly. Pressure onto this top lane turret, a few plates perhaps, but nothing too much to worry about.
Yeah, just focusing on getting your gold into the players that you want. Right now, specifically JackeyLove, the big beneficiary of that, and on the top side, it looks like Top Esports thought about potentially taking a fight. Charm barely goes wide as Tian's able to dash away or get away from that one rather nicely. However, here comes Xiaohu with the Realm Warp, and now Creme is suddenly singled out.
He could just walk it out.
Able to, walk things out there. He still had the Spirit Rush and his Flash available, so Waybo made sure not to overchase.
And this is the issue with the Rise. You have to be proactive with this Realm Warp, but it can be incredibly tricky to do so, and it's got quite a long cooldown in the early levels right here. So Xiaohu just going to be missing out onto that one for the upcoming Drake fight in a couple of minutes' time, potentially for the Herald as well, so not ideal to miss out onto that one. Creme not even having to blow the Spirit Rush to get away in that situation.
Yeah, so actually doesn't do much here for Waybo, but they have actually been able to maintain their gold lead. A lot of actually in the hands of Breathe, who I believe just picked up a plate on the bottom side as well as all the shenanigans were happening up top lane. That Gnar will be a big factor in terms of how the team fights for Waybo do go. We talk about how both teams generally have mostly single target abilities and focuses, right, with the Kaisa, with the Vi and the Ahri here for top, and then things even like the Jhin for Waybo. Breathe has a big ultimate button that does a lot of AoE damage, and so that is going to be a big difference maker here for this young player of Waybo.
Breathe and Hang are going to be the big differences right here, because they've actually got all of this AoE CC that they can be laying down. They can get involved into the backline. It's going to make Weibo's straight up 5v5 team fights a heck of a lot more effective than what Top Esports are going to be able to do, if of course they're not massively far ahead, which so far Weibo have done a good job of keeping top in check. Like you said, they've got themselves a small gold lead. The place where the gold lead isn't happening though is the bottom lane. JackeyLove got himself about 1,000 gold. The advantage is well ahead of his lane opponent right now and is in a very strong spot at the moment. Once you get that second item right here completed onto JackeyLove, I think this is the point where Top Esports are going to have to pull the trigger. They're going to have to go in and use this composition effectively. Otherwise, they're just not going to be in a good spot come these late game team fights.
Yeah, and while the lethality Jhin means you have a little bit more power in the early game, this champion still doesn't really come online until you get to 3 or 4 items at the most. So be a little bit until Waybo are at full strength. Meanwhile, in the bottom side, Xiaohu going to be the target as the full third proc, and the needlework connects combined with the season assist. Snip, snip, go the scissors. And 369 picks up his first kill of the game. And now a teleport is coming in from Breathe, who has to immediately flash away, being in that exhausted form. So Top Esports get a big play on the bot lane. They also force Breathe down bot and allow for JackeyLove to get the first tower of the game.
Yeah, the first tower going over to JackeyLove just after we were talking about all of the gold advantage he had. Well, that's going to help as well. And a great play right there out of Top Esports, showing us why they're still considered one of the top dogs that we've got at the moment in the LPL. But the pace just going to continue right here. Weibo straight over onto this Drake for themselves. With all of the pressure Top Esports have in the top side of the map at the moment, it's going to be pretty easy for them to pick this one up. Good pressure going down onto this tower right now, but I don't know that you want to try dive onto a Gwen right here.
Yeah, especially when Xiaohu is now going to get targeted by 3 members of Top Esports, gets straight charged into JackeyLove by Crisp. He sets it up and will get rewarded with it with a kill. Again, the trade on the other side is that bottom lane turret, but Top Esports getting the better end of things overall in terms of gold.
They really are. They're not quite going to be able to push forwards onto this tier 2, but going to be more than happy with what they were able to pick up in the first place. And the gold lead we'd just been praising Waybo for being able to maintain throughout the very early stages of this game has all of a sudden flipped. It's not a massive advantage right here for Top Esports, but it is something. And straight onto the Herald they go, with top lane cracked open, bot lane very weak at the moment. You'd have to imagine that this Herald is going to be destined for the mid lane. We'll have a look back at this one. The initial needleworks did miss out of 369, but this is why you pick up the Vi. The Vault Breaker, just to get you close enough to be able to ulti straight in onto Xiaohu, and it's very easy for them to be able to pick up that kill. More than enough damage between the Gwen and the Vi combo.
Hold on. I think Kanavi just stole away the Rift Herald, but wasn't able to pick up the Eye. So just a denial here, I think, right now for top, unless they try to go for it at this last moment. Kanavi dashing forward, looking for potentially that Vault Breaker, or sorry, the Cease and Desist onto Tian, but not going to find it. Breathe is Mega Gnar, though. And so that means the Top Esports have to back away without picking up the Eye of the Herald, meaning that it will go unclaimed here in game number 1.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good denial right there to be able to just stop it from going over. Get yourself a little bit back. Waybo, though, going to be able to pick themselves up this top lane tier 1. And these teams really are scrapping incredibly back and forth so far in this game. And without a true advantage right now, I'm still favouring Waybo in terms of these actual team fights once we get to this point. The teams, though, haven't been too interested in fully 5v5 scrapping at the moment. Top Esports, they've been just trying to play their composition as they should, trying to find a couple of picks so far. They've got all of their power right now on 369 and JackeyLove, whereas it's Tian right now who's in an incredibly strong position for Waybo.
Yeah, as soon as he gets that second item, in addition to that Eclipse, is going to be even a bigger power spike for Tian, who, again, has to be a big player on this team in terms of carry threat, specifically due to the way this composition has been set up around him. Ryze and Jhin are his 2 backline carries, and so if Tian's able to dish out a lot of damage as well as providing some space for these more artillery-oriented backliners, that'll be really big for Waybo, even though that's not necessarily the playstyle that we were expecting from Tian entering the series.
No, we were expecting Tian to be playing a lot more of these aggressive, skirmish-heavy pickups that really rely on getting early game priority to make the game work. Neferi not quite that champion. It can still be pretty aggressive in the early game, but you're much more looking to get yourself into these mid to late game team fights where you can weave in and out and really use the absolutely ridiculous Eviscerate E to be able to stop yourself from dying. Just go untargetable randomly. Why not?
Yeah. Well, it's very, very powerful, the changes that have been made for the kit. especially with that invulnerability. That could work well with against something like the Vi, who has that single target, point and click ultimate ability that she can just press, right? Rest of Weibo, looking at Xiaohu specifically right now, getting close to the full stacks of both the Seraphs and the Rod of Ages. Gonna be a big spike for him because right now, at least in the first 19 minutes of this game, he has not had a good one.
No, it's been a little bit slow so far. Hasn't quite been able to get himself into the position you would really have wanted to. Big pressure right here out of Weibo. They're going to be starting up onto this red buff. Kanavi and Crisp are in the area, but they need to be careful that they don't get fully collapsed upon. And everybody just going to have to turn tail and run right now. Weibo, they own this jungle. Also getting decent damage onto this bottom lane tier 2 tower. We've got less than a minute until the next Drake is going to spawn. With all of this pressure that Weibo have in this bottom quadrant of the map, all of the vision is going to make it very tricky for TS to be able to step up for this one.
Yeah, nice little interaction I want to call out there from Crisp as well. Pops the steadfast presence basically immediately after Hung hex flashes over the wall to make sure that he's very disincentivized to going in with that headbutt. Crisp has been secretly very solid on this Poppy throughout the season. He's had a couple of really big ultimates and really big plays on it throughout 2025, and it's not necessarily the support pick that always screams out as being like super powerful, but when it's in the right hands, it can certainly be strong.
It could do ridiculous amounts of damage, be so unbelievably tanky as well, and it's the ulti, I think, more than anything, where you can just fully reposition people on a team fight, make it so you get yourself favorable numbers at the beginning. In a composition like this, where you're looking to assassinate one person, if you can land that ulti onto 2-3 people, push them away, and then assassinate the remaining member, then that's a great way for these team fights to go for top esports, something that Crisp is definitely going to be looking for. For right now, though, the teams, they are posturing around this Drake, beginning to try to get themselves that mid lane priority and set themselves up for this one. In fact, TP going to be coming in right here. We are going to get Xiaohu around here, and it is going to be Weibo starting this one up first.
Yeah, they actually have chunked it down about half HP already. However, 369 has a nice flank, should be set up. However, he's going to have to face check this brush, and Xiaohu is there to at least make it a 1v2 in favor of Weibo for now. Creme over the wall, gets spotted out by that ward. Here comes Hung, though. He pops the Unbreakable Will, goes for the knockup and the hit back on JackeyLove, but JackeyLove just killer instincts away, and now all of Weibo's engage is just gone. Dragon at 2000 HP. It looks like Weibo will be able to secure it with the curtain call. His breathe, force the flash out of Kanavi with the Mega Nard jump over. Xiaohu just ends again with the Realm Warp as JackeyLove takes him down, and now Top Esports can run away with this team fight. It's a double kill for 369. It was looking so good for Weibo. They got themselves the Drake, but end up losing 3 members.
Yeah, so many members going to fall right here. They're also losing a ton of damage onto this mid lane tower as well. And this is just a disaster here out of Weibo. Xiaohu, I just don't know what the decision making was there. Went flying in for what felt like almost no reason, and Top Esports, they are not done. They want to pick themselves up the Atakan on the back end of this team fight.
And I mean, they should be able to, right? 5 seconds on Xiaohu respawning. He does have the teleport available. Hung gets hit up by a charm, but remember, no Unbreakable Will. Crisp on a flank. In addition, that Dragon is taking very low. Tian goes in, but the Otacon is secured here so far by Top Esports. Now Tian, the target, as Kanavi lays the ultimate on top of him, picked by 500 gold, shut down JackeyLove, flashes forward, and he'll pick up the kill on the Hung. Breathe, jumping away. Here comes Kanavi, vault breaking forward as the rest of the reinforcements arrive. Weibo soul laners are here, but they are here far too late as revives in all 5 of the back pockets of Top Esports.
Or when you look at the gold graph at the end of this game, there's going to be a massive spike that happens at about 20 minutes in as Weibo just makes mistake after mistake in this fight. The initial engage onto 369 is fine, but Gwen is immune. Hang goes in too early here. He gets charmed and decides, hey, I need to go and flashes in onto JackeyLove, but you're not able to pick up that kill. Really good use of the ulti out of JackeyLove to reposition himself. Like you said, Crisp was just able to play bodyguard, but then this team fight is still in a pretty dang good spot right here for Weibo. They like team fights that are a little bit more extended, that take a little bit more time. Xiaohu, why? That's my question, right? Why make that play right there by yourself in the Realm Warp was never going to work out, and that's the catalyst that actually starts the Atakan being a possibility for Top Esports.
I mean, just a baffling decision by Xiaohu to go in with that Realm Warp right there. I mean, we talk about the pedigree and the experience of a player like this, but that was not what we have typically been expecting from a player like Xiaohu, who's not had himself the best 2025 so far. He could make up for it, though. Remember, Revive's still here for top. They want to go for this engage, try to prevent this mid-tier one from going down. Crisp with a really nice steadfast Keeper's Verdict will send Light away, but he will be able to open up the curtain call. Crisp should probably get that revive pop. But actually, he's able to get away here with the W. Extra movement speed. Finally, the ultimate comes through from Tian, and that will secure at least that 200 gold going over. But that is a small price to pay, while on the other side, 369 gets the bot tier 2.
Yeah, with just 3 grubs, you can see how quickly 369 is able to melt through these towers. Actually, teleport right here in the back end of a flank is going to be spotted right here. Breathe goes to engage with him.
Look at Kanavi. He's jumping in 1v5. He does have the revive, but it does allow enough space for Creme to take down Light. Look at 369 underneath the tower. It's just going to 1v1 Breathe, and the rest of the team is there to follow up in a 4v5 top esports. Pick up an ace.
These fights have felt incredibly close, but only 3 kills for Waybo right now. 2 of them sat on Tian, and TES Esports are just dismantling these guys. What a mess of a team fight right there, but the overall advantage is TES Esports. They get so much from this one. On the replay, we'll be able to break down a little bit more of what ends up happening, because if you watch a different member, there's something happening for everyone. 369 is in a 1v1 in the top side under tower. It's a great ulti originally as well, with the Keeper's Verdict, like you said. But in this main mess of fighting, JackeyLove, we highlighted how he had a big advantage for himself early on. Well, 3 items completed on this Kai'Sa is just wrecking people at the moment.
I mean, yeah, JackeyLove did a lot there. And remember, this was a 3v5 or 4v5 in a way before Kanavi went down, and then Crisp was in the revive, so he was back in base when that fight started. And top esports were able to win anyway, and a big part of that goes towards 369 as well. Blocking out Breathe from the entirety of the fight by just fighting him underneath the tower. He's going to try to do that again onto Tian, as now they're contesting this upper side Krugs. Hung goes in with the headbutt pulverized, but he again might be a little bit too far away from the rest of his team. There comes the cease and desist. It lands on the Xiaohu, who is going to fall again. 369 playing like 999 in this game. Another double kill for the Gwen, as Baron now on the menu.
And this is the thing with giving over the Gwen early on. Yes, you get that initial solo kill as Breathe, which was really nice. But the reason this champion is so strong, the reason teams are more than happy to B1 it, is because even if you put it down a little bit during the laning phase, you just shred through tanks so incredibly effectively, and she's got so much survivability through that Hallowed Mist as well. Hang is pretty tanky at this point in the game, but not for a champion like Gwen. And once you lose those initial tanks in these team fights, there's nothing that Waybo can do. They're going to be able to pick themselves up a consolation prize of this Drake that is going to put them on soul point at least, but it is still very little in their favor in this game.
Oh, okay, Creme might go a little bit too far forward. Pops the Zonias. We'll see if the rest of his team is going to be able to follow up. Crisp dashes in. Heroic charges the wall. Look at JackeyLove. Obliterates the Nefiri. And is going to flash over the wall to try to pick up another kill. 2 already in favor of top. They're looking for Xiaohu again. Hung will pick up the shutdown onto Kanavi. And now Crisp dashes over the wall and lands a heroic charge as well. Creme somehow lived through the entirety of that, but finally will get shut down by Light. 369 almost has a Gwen moment in a 1v2, but the rest of his team will be able to follow up. JackeyLove goes off, 369 finishes it off, and that should be game.
Yeah, that should close this one out right here. It's been an incredibly fast-paced game, less than 30 minutes, which is a rarity in the current meta, but with the Baron Empowered Minion, 3 grubs on your side, and a Gwen and Kai'Sa to melt through what's in front of you, they're going to be able to push forwards a little bit. Actually, they don't want to fully go for this one. Tian would be back up, Breathe would be back up. I can understand backing off a little bit. I really thought they'd go for the end right there. Makes sense, though, to back this one back.
Well, the Nexus isn't down, but the game essentially over at this point. It's an 11,000 gold lead at 27 minutes here for top esports. The one win condition is that soul point, but Bloxer, I don't think we're going to get there as we take another look at this fight.
The fact that Creme survived so long in this one is crazy. The golden is very nice, then is able to finally get the ultimate off, and is able to survive pretty much through the entirety of this one. But just watch the blast cone that happens here in a second. This nearly ruins things for top esports. Chris bounces himself forwards, and JackeyLove nowhere to be seen. It kind of buys enough time for Creme to finally be taken out. But then 369 has arrived, and the slows that you get, Crisp able to chase this one down as well. The kills just falling right here. Like you said, 5 more minutes feels like a bit of an impossibility in this game. Top esports, they're playing with caution. You know, they didn't want to overpush for the end, but still, they're in such a strong position.
You know, even if we get there, even if Waybo get the soul, actually, like, doesn't even matter at this point. Light doesn't have enough damage in his kit at all right now. A rapid fire second item picked up for the Jhin is just not gonna cut it when you're down over 10,000 gold. Might be a little bit too late before that Infinity Edge finally comes in, as JackeyLove gets to play so aggressive now. 4 completed items, including that Guardian Angel, meaning that even if he does get targeted, the rest of his team should be able to back him up when he's in that revive form.
Yeah. Oh, hang on.
Hung. He tried to headbutt back. He actually just gets canceled here by Crisp. Tian finally dashing in onto JackeyLove. Two-man keeper's verdict, and now Top Esports might want to play a little bit more aggressive. Creme dashes over the wall. Lands a little bit of damage onto Xiaohu, but now here comes the curtain call to try and disengage, and he will be able to do so successfully, but not before the tier 3 tower in the mid lane goes down. Top Esports won't be able to pick up the inhib, but they crack open yet another structure and will head back to base.
And it's felt like none of these curtain calls from Light have been able to be that effective right now. Just not getting these fights. Here comes the Realm Warp.
Okay, Xiaohu, maybe a last-ditch effort. He actually stays alive for a little bit with that Seraph Shield, but there just is not enough damage. There's JackeyLove with the Killer Instinct. Guardian Angel, not even necessary when you are this damn strong on the Kai'Sa. A 5-for-0 ace as Top Esports are going to close out this game in dominant fashion.
It's been such a good game right here out of Top Esports. They're going to crush Waybo in their first meeting this whole year. What a performance right here. 10-0-6 right there on JackeyLove. Didn't die the entire way through.
And man, I mean, the start of the game went well for Waybo, right? You think about the first couple of kills that Tian was able to get, the solo kill that Breathe had in the 1v1 against 369. That seemed like that could have been a big opportunity for Waybo to take advantage of this and maybe come out with an early blow to Top Esports, the defending LPL Split 1 champions. Remember, the last time these two teams faced off, it was a 3-2 win for Waybo in the summer LPL lower bracket finals. But it doesn't look like that's where these two teams are at this point in time, and you immediately have to look towards one of the more experienced players here on Waybo in Xiaohu, who had himself a very rough go of things in that game.
Yeah, I mean, I've been seeing quite a lot of the rises recently, and there's a real distinction between the good rises and the bad rises, and it's those realm warps. How proactive are you really able to be with them? How much can you get done? Yeah, it really wasn't a lot that really felt like it was working out for them in that game, which is really unfortunate because when the Rise are looking great, when you are fully able to make this one work, it's gorgeous. It's so nice to watch. Unfortunately, that just was not the case. And Waybo, they had the better teamfight-orientated composition, but at the point at which the teamfights actually started happening, Top Esports had used their dive composition very effectively. They'd been able to get themselves enough of a lead that it was never really a straight-up 5v5 for the rest of it. Somebody got one shot, and then the rest of the team fight was just so incredibly difficult for them to try to play out.
And by the time we started to see some iterations of Waybo playing out their composition well, using the Realm Warps effectively, they were just wallet dipped at that point. We saw a couple of those instances at the very end of the game, whether it was Creme getting targeted around the Dragon Pit, or the final last-ditch effort by Waybo in the mid lane that ended up costing them the game.
No damage.
The thought process was there, but at the end of the day, their team composition just did not stack up, especially when they fell so far behind early on.
Yeah, and it was just the fact that it looked so good in the early game. We were like, oh, maybe Weibo were doing it. The early solo kill from Breathe onto 369 was great, but it didn't slow 369 down in the least. He was still incredibly effective throughout that game. The Gwen will have dealt mass damage. It will be very interesting to see just how much once we get the damage graphs up, because it just felt like Top Esports, they were able to run this game pretty much from the start to the end, and a big part of that, I'd say, is exactly who we were highlighting at the beginning of the game, Kanavi. We needed him to be on form, we needed him to be proactive, and boy was he on this buy.
Yeah, you know, I think early on, it was Tian who had the better go of things. He got that early invade off, he got an early kill, but once we got into those like mid-game team fights around the Grubs, around the Dragons, it was Kanavi who had really high impact and had one important goal, which was to use the Vi ultimate, to use that cease and desist onto a key target and have the rest of his team follow up on it. And he did that job. A+ to him in terms of how he was able to accomplish that goal specifically.
Yeah, and it was really nice to see him be able to play this Vi, something that Tian's been playing so much recently, and really be able to use it so effectively, show, hey, I can play all of the different styles right now. Only able to see the damage graphs just quickly, but we can watch back through a little bit of the highlights and everything. I mean, the way that these team fights were played out, like you said, the ideas were there in a lot of situations out of Waybo, but it was just so messy, and it really felt like the composition TES had for themselves loved a messy team fight.
Yeah, I'm starting to think about like MVP for this first game. If you are a fan of top esports, a lot of different options you could go, but I'm kind of inclined to pick Crisp in this series, in this game. I know he's had big ups and downs like throughout the year so far on top esports, but on this Poppy pick specifically, he's looked really good overall.
The Poppy was great from him, and it was just so proactive, had a couple of really nice ultis to be able to reposition people in fights, was constantly following up on the aggression. The steadfast presence was just useful in general throughout. I'm not sure that I'd give it to Crisp in this one. I think there's even higher highs that we can see from him, and I feel like the Poppy doesn't necessarily lend itself to like the full flashy plays that maybe we can get from him. Part of me wants to give it to JackeyLove just for the deathless performance that was incredibly proactive. At the same time, though, after the initial 5 minutes, Kanavi looked so good. I mean, it felt like almost everybody right here on Top Esports had great performances in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, happens when you win the game by 20 kills in under 30 minutes, right? It's just everybody looks good at the end, as we see a couple of these fights that maybe Waybo had an opportunity in. Again, I think Creme misplaying this pretty badly by just getting caught out, but when you're this far ahead, it doesn't matter.
Exactly. It's almost a bait in this situation to be able to pull everyone on in and make sure that they're able to overextend themselves basically as Waybo. And the second that they did that, the second especially the 369 arrives, well, there's very little that you can do in this game. For Waybo, obviously back to the drawing board. Now, it is hard fearless, these drafts, so they're not going to be able to run back the same kind of composition, but I would like something relatively similar. I think that a heavily teamfight orientated composition can work for Waybo. I think that's where their compositions have been looking best for them. But this one specifically, it just wasn't quite it. Especially, right, Tian. He looked really good on the Neferi, but we've been talking a lot, right, about how it isn't necessarily his kind of champion. I wonder if maybe he can find himself the Xin Zhao in the next game and really be able to run the map more effectively.
Yeah, I mean, after the first 5 minutes, did he really look good on the Neferi, though? I mean, I guess it goes
for the first 5.
Yeah, it has a little bit to do with how the rest of the team played as well. I need to see more out of Xiaohu. I mean, we hit on it as soon as we got out of game. This is one of the greatest players in LPL history right now, and he hasn't had the best early showing in Split 1 on Waybo, and then now going into this Split number 2 as we kick off the regular season. You're going to have to be on your A game. Think about all the really powerful, really great mid laners that we have in the LPL. You're going to have to play against all of them twice throughout this regular season. Hopefully he's able to show a little bit more. JackeyLove wins your MVP Bloxer as you were hoping for, and it is well deserved. He played great on his Kai'Sa pick.
Absolutely. Whenever you get a deathless ADC game, it's always a question of, right, were you proactive? Well, yes. There were constant times in this game where JackeyLove went flying into the backline with the ult. He was flashing forwards a lot of the time as well. It was really effectively played out of JackeyLove. And that's the sort of performance I really want to see more from him. The rest of the team feels like they've been the top-end carries for TES right here. JackeyLove, he's not been bad so far, but I think he could be so good if he really gets to be aggressive on these nice picks.
Yeah, looked pretty good on that one as he did walk away with our player of the game. Game number